Right, guys, so this is probably going to be an extremely messy video. Like, my mind is all over the place right now. This is without a doubt been one of the toughest, if not the toughest week of my entire life. A lot of you guys, you may have seen previous life updates or videos where I've talked about my personal life, where I've gone over what's been happening with my mum, and I've got some terrible news, something that's really not easy to speak about, but I feel like I need to. Number one, because the fact that I find it a good therapy session to stand here and talk to the camera and have no way for anyone to say anything back to me. I feel like I'm just talking and it's just getting the feelings out there. And the second reason is that whenever I do something like this, people always message me tons of things saying that they've been through similar situations or they're currently going through similar situations, and it's helping them deal with how things are going for them. And that to me means the world. If I can help 1, 2, 5 people in a similar situation that have been through something or are going through something like this, then that is a no-brainer for me to do something like this, because again, this is like a video diary for me. So we've got some really bad news, and then we've got some good news that we're going to end things off. So at least there's some silver lining to the video, But basically, you guys would have known, if you'd have seen a few of my update videos before, that my mum has been very unwell recently. And I'm going to do my best to not get super emotional here. But basically, the last week I've spent, the last months I've spent in and out of hospitals and looking after my mum. I've pretty much been her carer for this entire time of her having she had cancer, terminal cancer, bowel cancer, and one other one. I forget the details of the actual cancer itself. That wasn't important to me. What's important to me was being there for my mum and doing everything I could for her while she was still alive. Because sadly, you can probably guess from the way I've been speaking that mum is no longer with us. A few people, you may have lost family members, but I've lost plenty of people throughout the years, and nothing really makes you think losing the one person that's been there for you for your entire life. Even though me and my mum have had a rocky relationship, she's the only person that has been there throughout my entire life that is now no longer here. My brother, obviously I've had him throughout my entire life, but there's a certain relationship you have with your mum. She's always the person you go to when you're super young. You guys know what I mean. If you've had a good relationship with your mum, if you've had a rocky relationship with your mum, I'm going to offer you some advice here, because I feel like I've learned a lot throughout these past 2 years. And if I had a video like this to watch and go through when I first found out about my mum's illness, then it would have probably helped a lot. So that's what I'm going to try and do to the people that come after me. So basically, the last 2 years, mum's been going through all this stuff. She's been super ill, super unwell. She had chemotherapy. Things were looking really good for a while. I took her to Spain, which I'm so glad that I did, because my brother lives in Spain. I'm so happy I did that, because we have a bunch of nice pictures together. Growing up, my mum and me didn't really have a great relationship. A bunch of alcoholism, drug addictions in the family. I won't go into it, but it's been very common occurrence in my family. I just want to move forward and speak about how I'm dealing with these things and how you guys can deal with them too if you're having something similar happen. So this whole thing started about the real bad down spiral started happening about two months ago. Mum's obviously been in a lot of pain with her bowel cancer, with her stomach and stuff, and her side. She's always had a lot of pain since the diagnosis. And one day I go in after she's rang me up and asked me to pick some stuff from the shop for her. One day I go in and she's pretty much passed out on the bed. There's no response. I can't get through to her. Basically, what had happened was she was taking very strong painkillers that she'd been prescribed, still living on her own with no carers, apart from me, who was going around there every day. She only lived down the road from me, so I was always there for her. Basically, I went in there and she was passed out, no response. The doctors were like, just don't worry, we'll leave her for a bit. And I was like, no, fuck that. We need to get an ambulance out here. Eventually, 6 hours later, the ambulance arrives. Mum gets taken into hospital. She's in the hospital for a couple of weeks, maybe a week. And then they're basically saying that you can't go home. There's no way that you can survive at home on your own, because I have I have a job, I have a family, I can't be there 24/7. There's no space or facilities for mum to come and live with me here. So basically, I then had to be in and out of the hospital constantly, seeing mum, which is like 30 miles away from me, but that's not even a problem. Obviously, it's my mum. I'll do anything for her. We go through this whole scenario of her in the hospital. Eventually, she gets moved to a hospice. For those of you that don't know, a hospice is basically somewhere that when someone's terminally ill and they're not going to be going home, it's for the last few weeks, months of their life. They're going to be in the hospice, so they have round-the-clock care, painkillers whenever they need them. And then, so mum was in the hospice from about 3 weeks ago until she passed away, which was a few days ago. Essentially, the nurses were absolutely amazing there. They were so caring. Like, they knew so much about me and my brother because my mum had obviously, my mum was very proud of us. She would always talk about us to people. So that is one thing that sits very dearly in my heart. Like, my mum, she loved the crap out of us. And obviously we loved the crap out of her too. And sorry, I'm a bit messy in the mind right now. But basically, she was in the hospice. We were visiting her regularly, and it was going like she was very much plateaued on a level. Like, she was obviously in pain, but you could still speak to her. You could still go see her. She was still smoking cigarettes and this, that, and the other, which you can say like, oh, you shouldn't have been smoking, all this, that, and the other. But when you're already terminally ill, to tell someone that they can't do one of the only things left in their life that they enjoy, I was never going to be the person to do that. Like, when someone's already like the death was already incoming, I'm not going to take away something that she enjoyed, even if it was bad for her health or whatever. It was already too late, basically. So I would go there a few times a week because obviously I don't drive, and Holly can only drive me there a few times a week, and there's no like bus or a train station where the hospice was, so it was tough to get there. The only thing that I wish I did was I wish that I went more often, because in them last few weeks, like, mum would always say, oh, don't worry, just come see me when you can. And I was always under the impression that if she got bad, she would tell me and I would be there all the time for her. But I tell you this, guys, if you're in a situation similar to this, spend every single minute you can with the loved one, because when it starts to deteriorate, when they start to get into that downward spiral and it gets really close to the end, it goes from 0 to 100 almost instantly. Like, mum was originally like, oh, just come see me on Monday, blah, blah, blah. Rings me on Friday, she's in super high spirits. On Saturday, she doesn't get back to me. On Sunday, she doesn't get back to me. So on Monday, obviously, I go straight there, super worried. The nurses, though, they would, if it was like really bad, they would have called me. Mum just said she wasn't really in the frame of mind to speak. So I get there, and the toughest sight of my entire life was seeing mum laying there, as harsh as it sounds, like a skeleton. Like, it didn't look anything like she did in the months coming up to that. Obviously, it's been a slow deterioration, but that last few days, the last like 3 days, went from like, say if she started at 50%, went to 40% after 3 months, that 40% went down to 1% in a couple of days. So obviously it's one of the toughest things I ever had to see. My mum was there, and like, she was under so many painkillers that it wasn't just the fact that the cancer was taking over. To make it manageable for her, they had to put her on so many painkillers that it got to a point where the painkillers took away her speech, and like, she couldn't speak properly. But the last couple of days was really the hardest, because you could tell, like, she was in there, her eyes were there, the lights were on, but she couldn't communicate. And I'll never forget this. My mum looked at me, she was trying to speak, she couldn't. She raised her fist, shook it, and was hitting the bed because she couldn't speak, but she clearly wanted to communicate. Like, one of the toughest things I will ever see in my entire life, that. And I will tell you this now, guys, that the reason why I do this is so that you're not alone if you're in these kind of scenarios. Like, this happens all over the world. Just know that if this is your parents, loved one, sister, brother, whoever it may be, spend every single minute with them, even if they say they don't need it. The second they show any sign of I'm too ill to talk, you get there and you spend every fucking minute with them. Because I wish I did that. There's a few days there where I could have been there for mum when she told me she was just too ill to talk, but not that she needed us there constantly. Like, I wish I didn't listen to that, and I wish I was there. But the last couple of days I was in the hospital the entire time, like slept on the floor next to her, looked after her the entire time, held her hand. Like, there's not much else you can do in those scenarios. Like, mum was clearly scared, clearly in a lot of pain, very distressed. But the last day she was there, like, the last day she was there, just laying there, just asleep. And to be honest, that was a good thing. Like, I'd much rather her be asleep and not in pain for the last day than see the struggle in someone's face when they're trying to communicate but can't. You know, that was the toughest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And it will stick with me for the rest of my life, without a doubt. So, obviously, it came to it. My brother, who lives in Spain, like, I had to get him over. His original flight was booked for a week later. I was like, bro, you need to get here today. Like, there's no way that you can wait till next week. Mum is not going to last. Like, the hospice were like, we don't know. She could last a couple of days. She could last a few hours. And I was like, bro, the way that I see things here, you need to get here. So, luckily, paid for all of his flights, got Holly to pick him up from the airport. We got him there literally like 8 hours before mum stopped breathing. And the entire time, we both sat next to her. We were thinking of ways to immortalize her. Like, we thought of creating like a trading card game for our family where we have like mum made into like a medieval trading card, and then like as people go through our family tree, as soon as someone dies, they get made into a trading card, and then that deck of cards is passed down throughout the family. I think that's a incredible idea that I think we're going to go ahead with to immortalize mum. And another thing, a great idea that my brother had that I wish that I did beforehand, was when he was laying with her. Obviously, when you're looking at your parent in the bed in that scenario with that like skeletal figure, as harsh as it sounds, I'm just telling it how it is. Like, he kept a picture of her, like when she was healthy or healthier, next to the bed, so that whenever he would like sit with mum, look at her, give her a kiss or whatever, he would then look back at that picture and be like, this is the woman that raised me, and this is the woman we're looking after today. Like, it's one of the toughest things anyone will ever have to go through in their entire life. And one thing I will say is that a lot of people get to that scenario in their life and they're just like, they maybe don't have their family members around them. It was me, my mum's sister, and my brother, and Holly for a period of time, but I sent Holly home so she could get some sleep because she needed it. And I just slept on the floor of there was like a mattress, but I slept on the floor of the hospice. And yeah, when we woke up in the morning, I remember waking up like every half an hour because obviously mum was like snoring while she was asleep. Thankfully, didn't seem like she was in much pain in the last few hours. And I woke up at 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5, 5:30, 7. Woke up at 7, she was still breathing. Woke up at 7:30, and there was no breath. There was no more breath. And that was it. That was a very tough 2 years of my life. I'm kind of glad that mum's no longer in pain. Those last few weeks, she was in a lot of pain, but like I said earlier, spend every minute you can with the loved ones, especially your mum. Like, she was the one person that was there throughout my entire life. Like, even through the addictions and the problems that we had, like, we fixed our relationship in the past couple of years, even before the diagnosis. Just before the diagnosis, I got her sober, took her to AA meetings, did everything I can for her. And if we didn't do that, who knows? It could have been a lot sourer of an ending. But yeah, my advice for you guys is treat every moment like it's your last with a loved one in that position. Obviously, people die randomly all the time, but when you see it coming, never waste a single moment. And then the one thing mum always said is that she wanted to be cremated. She had an idea that, because my sister passed away when I was younger, that's my mum's daughter too, obviously. we have different dads, but same mum. My mum always wanted to have her ashes. She wanted to be cremated and have her ashes scattered on my sister's grave. So that's what we're going to do. And one thing I will tell you, don't sound like I'm complaining at all, but one thing I will tell you is that cremations are pretty freaking expensive, man. Like, that cost us £1,500 to have mum put in for the cremation. Obviously, it hasn't happened yet. The death was only a couple of days ago. But yeah, so we've done that. We're going to get her made into some jewelry. She always wanted that. She wanted me to have some jewelry made out of her ashes, Holly to have some, my brother to have some, my auntie to have some, and my brother's daughter and wife to also have some. So we're going to have some jewelry made, and I'm also going to have a trading card made. That's something that is personal to me, and I think that's a cool idea for a family tree. So yeah, a very expensive, a very emotional, a very tough couple of days, man. Like, I don't really know what else to say, to be honest. Like, ask your loved ones what they want and how they want to be remembered. Obviously, mum wanted her ashes put on my sister's grave, so we're going to do that, get the rest made into jewelry, and then maybe keep some to have around with us. And like, you'll find yourself, if you go through this stuff, you'll find yourself keeping silly things from like when they're alive. Like, for example, you see this like fruit shoot here. My mum had a 6-pack of these fruit shoots, and she was drinking these for like the past week or something of her life because of she couldn't like chew or have like proper hot or cold drinks, or she couldn't have like proper hot drinks or anything. And me and my brother just couldn't. There was one left. We didn't have the heart to throw it away, and he couldn't take it back to Spain. So that fruit shoot, my mum's last fruit shoot that you see right there. Fruit shoot's an English brand, but it's basically just a little juice thing here. This will sit in the back of my set for the foreseeable future. So yeah, toughest week probably of my life so far. Lord knows what will top this one, eh? But anyway, guys, I hope that if you go through something similar, you can watch a video like this and it can help you relate and help you through something. Spend every minute you can with them, and that's about it.